Hi, and welcome to Prescribing Possibility, conversations that inspire us to grow, heal, and live with harmony. I'm your host, Dr. Dimp Nawile. Thanks for joining me, friends. So I wanted to just welcome everybody back to Prescribing Possibility, and today we're going to talk about movement, because these two wonderful ladies have introduced movement in so many ways to Saratoga through the Saratoga Shredders. And I would just love for you to just introduce yourselves to everybody, and then we'll get into what you do.
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Anna Laloë. I am the founder and executive director of Saratoga Shredders, and now the umbrella organization of which is called Shredders MTB.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into
Drop that
one
right away.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm Marcella Hammer. I am the board chair for Saratoga Shredders, but it's actually called Shredders MTB now, but as you can tell by my crop top.
I love it.
I'm really excited to be a part of this organization, and I really only am because when I first heard about what Anna was doing, I stalked her and made her be my friend.
True.
And said, how can I help? I want to help. I want to be involved. And I think the rest is history.
Amazing. Yeah. So interestingly, I know we talked about it not that long ago, and Anna did not recall because I'm not that memorable, but it was a long time
Pull
ago.
yourself together. Yes, you are.
No, this is because it was way back in the beginning of Shredders. It was but a thought in her mind. And we were at Crew Coffee, and I saw her over in the corner, like scribbling away. And then she looked up and she was like, oh, hi. Our daughters went to kindergarten and all through elementary school together. So, and I remember coming over and asking, oh, what you working on? And you just said, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm thinking of doing this thing. And I was like, yes, hell yeah, girl power. I love it. And now look at where you are. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the origin story of Shredders MTB, formerly known as Saratoga Shredders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So I was racing at a fairly high level in mountain biking when I was raising my kiddos when they were little. And
she says that so casually.
Yeah.
I was racing at a very high level.
Yeah. No
amazing.
biggie.
No biggie.
And there were
It's a
really
biggie.
not a lot of women racing at the scene. There weren't a lot of women at the start line for these races. And my girls were getting to the age at which they were starting to ride bikes. So Zoe was in kindergarten and Sophie was in second grade. They're now 13 and 15 years old. And as a parent, this was really, I started Shredders as a selfish parenting move in that when you go hiking or riding with your kids, there's always complaints, right? If it's just the three of you, it was myself and my two children. And there's, when are we going to get there? Can we have snacks, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but I found that whenever we invited, one other child or one other family to join us, all of those complaints would magically go away. When Zoe was in kindergarten and Sophie in second, and I made these little business card size pieces of paper for the girls to hand out to their classmates. And it said, we're meeting at 4 p.m. in the spa park, girls only, come join us. And for, I think it was like 2 falls and a spring, we would have 10 to 15 girls show up every Friday. And it was just friends and friends of friends with their moms. And it was great, but super small, and we kept it pretty chill. And I went back to work full time in the fall of 2019, a brand new career for me. I have a PhD in geology and worked in academia for many years doing polar climate science in the Arctic and the Antarctic, and then was at home with my kids for 9 years following that, and then re-entered the workforce as a consultant for a company called Arcadis.
I feel like that could be a whole other.
We'll have many stories.
Next episode, we're going to Antarctica.
That's right. Yes, we'll tackle that in another one. Oh my God.
And so started working full time that fall, and then it was COVID, less than 6 months later, and so we hadn't run a Shredders or a program in the spring. I hadn't had a girls group riding the spring of 2020 because of COVID. And then in the summer, I put out a Facebook post, it was probably July of 2020 or so, saying that we're going to start this up again. Any girls want to meet up again, 4 p.m. on a Friday, girls only. And 20 girls showed up at that first ride in July of 2020. And it was not just our friends and friends of friends. These were folks that I didn't necessarily know. So I was like, okay, it's time to it's probably something we need to do legitimately now and set up an organization and set up insurance policies and such. So I actually called the DOH first, the Department of Health, and I was like, this is what we're hoping to do, and this is where we're at right now. These are the protocols that we have in place for COVID right now. Are you okay with us doing this, first of all?
I have to pause you right there. So many people would never think of that. And I think the fact that you did made it so much more accessible to so many families who were just beside themselves at that point in time, looking for something. So I just have to
Thank you.
note
No,
that.
it felt good to have and it wasn't only permission that they gave. They said, please do more of this. It was it's a young age group, right? And they're outside. As long as they're staying on their bikes, they're socially distanced. And we were making sure they were staying in their own little groups. So we knew who was in each group if there happened to be a case of COVID. Anyway, so from week to week between July and September, every week we doubled in size. It literally went from 20 girls in July to 100-ish in September. It was wild.
My God.
And luckily, as the number of girls increased, the number of mums and females that joined us also increased, because otherwise we just wouldn't have been able to sustain the growth in the number of kids that were joining us, right? So,
Sure.
And again, we were female and girl only. So it was all these moms who had, they're comfortable riding their bikes in the neighborhoods with their kids, but many of them had never been in trails before. So we were really introducing this. It was kind of an unintentional, awesome consequence of starting the organization as a girls only group, in that we built the women's bike scene big time in this area.
Yeah.
So a couple of funny things just stood out. So when you said the selfish parenting, I was like, oh my God, I totally understand that. And it has a name now, because I did the same thing back in 2016. Kyla wanted to start Irish dancing.
Yeah.
I had my Irish dance certification.
Right.
There was nowhere to do that locally with a certified teacher. And it's better done in a group.
Yes.
And so I started my Irish dancing school, and it was the same thing.
When you started that. Yeah, it was so bold.
I'm
And
like,
it was.
any friends want to come? We started with 8, and by the time COVID came and we had to shut it down, there were 30.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
And it's just, it's like there's
makes
nothing
sense.
like it, to impact kids' lives in that way. So I want to have Marcella jump in and let us know how you kind of came into the fold of Shredders. Other than by stalking, maybe.
Yes.
I think there's stalking involved.
There really was. There was a media article, a few of them, about Anna and what she was doing. And in 2020 at the time, so I'm still a part of the Palette organization. At that time, Palette is a women in business organization. We have headquarters here in Saratoga. It's a co-working space. And during COVID, what are you going to do with a co-working space and with a community of women in business, except to try and find a way to connect them? The number of Facebook Lives that I have done in my lifetime, just during that few year period, we were very, prolific with our content. And one of the programs that I did, we called it Bike Talk. And it was me, Maddie Zanetti from Impressions, who I don't even know how this, when I tell you the third part of the trio, you're going to just go, because it's amazing. Me and Maddie Zanetti, who is known for riding her bike around town. She has a big bucket bike. And so there's either dogs or children in the back of it. It's glorious. And Ian Klepetar, who is, I think, the original founder of what is now Biketoga. And it started off as a healthy transportation organization. And I don't even know how this happened, but the three of us decided to do Bike Talk. And I was like, I want to talk to Anna. I'm going to make her be my friend. I want to do this. And so we somehow convinced you to do that. And I think that conversation is in the Facebook ether forever somewhere. But what so inspired me is that I grew up riding mountain bikes. I love bikes. And my primary riding partner was always my sister. Of course, when I would ride with boys, it was just never the same experience. And so when I found out Anna had created something just for girls, I know how the sport changed me and how much confidence it can give you. And so I'm like, I need to be a part of it. At the time, my schedule didn't allow me to ride with them. And then as soon as it did, I said, I'm in.
And you were all in from the start. Yeah.
It's funny because I was just thinking about that. I was somehow not on the email list that told us where we were going every week. And yet I somehow showed up. I don't even know how it happened.
You knew you could sense.
I was like, I'm there. I don't know how. And we were still wearing masks that first season. And I think that was fall 2021. We were still wearing masks with the kids and still dividing the kids by ability versus grade level, which is how we do it in the Saratoga area now. Mm-hmm. And I was hooked. Absolutely hooked.
I mean, there's something, it's an incredible scene to show up to. It's a sea of girls, literally. Having never, even myself, having been a semi-professional bike racer, had never seen this many girls on bikes in one place ever. And the fact that our little town had literally over 100 girls showing up to each of these rides at the Spa Park and Luther and KP at the time was it was phenomenal. And yeah.
I think it's just such a testament to like what you can dream and what you can make a reality. I think people sell themselves short on what they can accomplish because Absolutely. This was not, I'm going to convene a group and we're going to discuss this and make it all formal. It was like, I have this idea. This is a need.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some selfish motivation, whatever. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
as there should be in life. Like, come on now.
I think it's like self-care motivation, right? Mm-hmm. Like you wanted to be committed and continue what you loved and you wanted to bring your kids into it. So like, it's just such an inspirational story about how it started that I think everyone can take a little, page from that playbook.
Thank you. Yeah. I've recently, I guess there's a term for is kind of progress over perfection.
Yes.
And I've certainly leaned into that with this organization in terms of, I realized it was a thing and it was something that folks were enjoying doing. And I didn't know if it would die once COVID kind of dissipated and everything else opened up again, but then realized quickly that we were here to stay. But then we've evolved we usually try and, if we've evolved something in the organization, we let it rest for like 2 seasons to see how it settles, right? Before we change again. But we've evolved a ton in the 5 years we've now been since we've started. I guess we've been a 501c3 for 4 years, but we were starting, gathering girls it's 5 years ago now. And we've had a lot of evolution. And that piece of being okay with it, not being okay with making mistakes, being okay with trying new things and gathering as much like collaborative feedback as possible along the way. Like sometimes that's kind of a detriment because it can hold you back because you're always
people pleasing.
Yeah, exactly. You can't please everybody, right? That's the main thing I've learned. But if you don't reach out and ask, or if you don't understand how this is sitting in the community and how it's sitting in terms of perception with other mountain bikers that have previously been using the trails for many years by themselves, and all of a sudden they're overrun with lots of little kiddos or other organizations and trails.
I have comments on that, but I'm just going to keep them to myself.
So that piece of not making it perfect, but keeping to try to change with the times and what the community needs as we move forward has been something I really leaned into.
Well, I love the idea, like the metaphor of movement, right? Like just getting kids out on the bikes, the movement of like getting them through some of the difficult times of COVID, the concept of, moving along in like the iterations, because I do think like we do tend to be afraid of change. And so to be so welcoming and open to it, I think probably has contributed an enormous amount to the success of the organization, I know for myself, like movement for me was Irish dancing.
Yeah.
I lost it because of a balance disorder that unfortunately continues to keep me from it. But finding some way to move and be not just active, but it sparks creativity. Yeah. There's so many benefits to it particularly for young women.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious, people might be familiar with bikes in schools, and that I know Marcella was involved in that too. And Anna really kind of spearheaded that effort. So in Saratoga Springs, for those who don't know, are now all of our elementary schools and middle school, and we're working on high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Have bikes at their disposal for their physical education classes. And I'll have you, pick it up from there and explain a little bit about what the motivation behind that was and how you made that happen, because that is no small feat.
Yeah.
I just have to say, I love this story. So I'm just going to sit here and listen to Anna tell
I want you to jump in.
I will, of course, jump in. But I think what I appreciate so much about this story is kind of like when Anna discusses the origin of Shredders as an organization, where maybe the intention was this when we began, but then little things started sparking and feedback guided what the eventual initiative would become and made it 1,000,000 times better than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, it's being open to change and open to
feedback.
Yes, 100%.
I'm a scientist, right? So I'm not the most creative person. So I thrive when people have big ideas that I'm always telling our coaches and our staff that like just think big, which I get from a mentor of mine, Will Aldrich.
I love it. And I'm like, let's buy all these domains just in case we need them,
and
Anna.
We have used
and
a
we've
few
used
of them.
That's amazing. I love this.
So early on with Shredders, we realized that we didn't charge anything, first of all, for Shredders. It was a free program until we realized that nonprofit doesn't mean that you don't make a profit. It's a bit of a misnomer. You need to create a sustainable organization by having program-generated revenue and grants and donations and things. So by year 2, we were charging a small fee, and then immediately realized, obviously, there's folks that can't afford this small fee, and so immediately offered scholarship opportunities for kids in need. And then we're able to offer bikes that kids could borrow if they didn't have a bicycle. And so I was really focused on how could we make Saratoga Shredders more diverse, right? But we live in Saratoga, and there's not a lot of racial diversity. There's some socioeconomic diversity, but it was a struggle to reach those kids who, even if we gave them a scholarship and a free bike, they couldn't necessarily they didn't have a parent who was coming home at 4:00 to bring them to a trailhead that they had to drive to, or had a car or had a rack to put on a car, even if we gave them the bicycle. So instead of kind of forcing diversity on Shredders, I decided let's flip the model and bring Shredders to existing organizations and places that have lots of kids already and they have that need. And let's somehow provide the equipment or the teaching for those groups. So in those first couple of years, each year we identified a local organization that we wanted to help out. And we would donate a fleet of new bikes to them.
So cool.
So the first year it was Boys and Girls Club of Schenectady. And I think we brought 15 people down there to help out with giving the bikes to them, but also leading a one-day kind of skills clinic for the kids who hadn't ridden much before. So that was our first foray into it, and it was just the most rewarding, incredible experience. And the next group was
Backstretch.
Yeah, the kids at Backstretch Workers.
Oh, how awesome!
Yeah, that was and they have there's some property in the Backstretch area, and so we gave them 15 bikes to use for the kiddos back there. And again, wonderful experience. And then we reached out to Camp Stomping Ground in Middle Grove, and built them a trail. So we worked collaboratively with the Saratoga Mountain Bike Association, SIMBA, to build them a trail and give them bikes for their summer camps for kids that are coming from inner city mostly to enjoy a wilderness camp.
And you just say this so
so casually. And then
we did this, and then we did that. So I just have to point out, none of what you have done is simple or easy.
But it feels that way, doesn't it?
That's the thing.
Why do you think that is, Marcella?
Because it's the right thing to do. What else is there to do? What are we going to not? So it's sometimes when an idea is so good, to not invest in it is more effort than to actually do it. And Anna mentioned that one of her mentors, the progress not perfection. One of the things that really drives me is to invest in what you love, and this is just such an easy way to do it. It seems like a low investment for so many of us involved. It's incredible. And a lot of it is just because we happen to have a really core group of some of the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of those, as I mentioned, one of those individuals is Will Aldrich, who's just been a mentor to me through the years of Shredders. And I didn't know him until probably 3 years ago. I met him in the SIMBA parking lot in Daniels Road State Forest. And he's a YouTube executive, lives on the West Coast in California, but he was born and raised here in Saratoga and has strong roots with Saratoga. And he bought some property in Greenfield a few years ago and built beginner level trails on it.
Oh, wow.
So that Shredders mostly could ride there, and families that are beginner level riders could ride there. A small trail system with the idea of gifting it to the town of Greenfield as a public open space. You may or may not have heard of this project. This is Tupelo Community Forest, and it's now been shut for 3 years, and it still has these beautiful trail systems on it. But But the point is that he has these grand ideas of how to create a family-friendly environment for all folks to be able to enjoy our open spaces and trails. And in that process of creating Tupelo, he went to Greenfield Elementary when he was a kid. And he said, gosh, what about bikes at Greenfield Elementary? Because how cool would it be for those kids to take a field trip to Tupelo at the end of their year once they've learned to ride their bikes?
Oh my gosh.
And go and ride in
I
Tupelo.
have all the goosies.
I know.
It's amazing.
So I reached out. We had a couple of Shredders families who go to Greenfield at the time they were in elementary school, and connected with the PE teacher there.
Coach Coop.
Coach Coop.
Gotta shout him out.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And just had a one-on-one meeting with him. And Will was in California, but we had a call together with him and just pitched the idea of having a fleet of balance bikes. So the balance bikes are bicycles who do not have pedals. So you learn to balance and steer once the kiddo has learned the young kid. So this is between 2 and 5 years old, that size bike. So very small wheels. And once the kiddo has learned how to steer and balance, you can attach a set of pedals to the bike and off you go. So you skip training wheels altogether. And so he thought it was an amazing idea to have the kindergartners have these balance bikes. And within 24 hours, he had called all of the other PE teachers in the elementary school, in the 5 other elementary schools in Saratoga, and said, we need to have this across all the elementary schools. In my mind, when I was received so warmly by him and the idea of this, I was immediately like, well, might as well do K through 12 if kindergarten's going to do it.
Well,
Exactly.
might as well.
It's
if
right
one
there.
kindergarten class
So
wants to do
I
it,
just have
why
to
not
say,
all
I
of
have
the
known you a
districts?
very long time, but I did not know just how similar we were.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
It's, you were mentioning like the building of the park, which I actually didn't know was out in Greenfield. And it combines like 2 things that are so important, not just for kids, but for adults too, that are accompanying them, which is 1, being in nature, because it is just so grounding in terms of like nervous system regulation, right? And the movement part.
Yeah.
And so you're combining a skill with those 2 ways to teach kids how to, not control, but really modify or work with themselves as opposed to not having an outlet for expression or what have you. So it's so much more than what it seems on the surface,
I've always said that it's not just getting kids on bikes. We're teaching them a lot more than that when they're in the Shredders program. It's not a competitive program, right? It's not a mainstream sport. We're getting them in the woods. It's the social piece of it. It's the getting off of screens piece of it. And it's the being in nature, like bringing in some STEM pieces to it as well. And we really, the last couple of years, have really leaned into what we call, a pledge that we take, which is riding with gratitude. It's a saying that we've adopted, ride with gratitude. And its origins are in another nonprofit that called might have to look this up, the Northern Forest Center, I believe.
Okay.
Up in the northern New England. And they've worked with many trail systems where trails are on private land with permission. And so respecting the nature around you and the other trail users around you, and the fact that these trails don't magically just appear, and having that respect for those trail stewards and such is something that we really lean into as well. And so every year, for example, every spring, we dedicate 1 week so it's a 6-week season for Shredders kiddos. One of those 6 weeks is off the bike, and you're going to a trail, and we've set up, 5 or 6 of those. This was 2 weeks ago that we ran that this spring. We had 6 different trail work week days where we connect with those organizations that are doing the stewardship, right? And teach the kids that these are the trails we enjoy every week, and put hundreds of wheels on these trails. Let's show up and learn about the organizations that either have built those trails or are stewarding those trails, learn from them what they do, and then let's go out on the trails and clean them up. And whether that's picking up trash in the spot park, or whether that's doing a little bit of actual berm building on a technical mountain bike trail system. So it hopefully instills those kind of beginning values of respecting the nature that you're enjoying on a daily basis.
Your mind is blown, and I'm going to keep going.
I literally was so looking forward to this, and this is just, I'm just like, screw what I have written down, carry on.
So
It's amazing.
one of the things that I really love about all of this is, we talk about those very specific lessons, like getting kids off of screens, getting them into nature. I think that what we're able to accomplish is so much sneaky education and developing of values for these kids and independence and for their parents and for their whole families, that whether they know it or not, they're learning how to ride bikes as a family.
Yeah.
And the kids are learning to ride bikes with their friends. And all of that leads to a lifetime of movement, which is really one of the things that I'm so motivated to encourage, is not to think about mountain biking as a sport, but to think of it as a lifestyle, and a lifestyle that you want to do with your friends.
Right.
It's so funny. We had a board meeting yesterday
You did?
on bikes.
Yes. It was a riding board meeting.
And
I cannot. I love
it was amazing. But to be able to have this dedication and alignment with the organization, and then to also be able to ride bikes as grown-ups in the spa park, like a line of grown-ups, it was just hysterical and wonderful to experience that and to know we could go ride bikes together again.
Yeah.
And this is what I hope these kids are really getting from this experience, and their parents too, is that like I can go ride bikes with my friends anytime in my life.
Right. This doesn't end when I'm done in school. And I think the other part, which we haven't really touched on, is the fact that it started with all girls.
Yeah.
And I do know there was some expansion. We can get into that in a minute. But the all girl thing really is powerful, particularly in your sport.
Yeah.
I always talk about my daughter Kyla. She's a swimmer, right? And they've been, they walk around in their bathing suits since they are this big.
Yeah.
They do not have a care, a worry. They don't have that self-consciousness. Now, a little bit comes in, right, at the end of middle school, and there's normal stuff. But they develop such good self-esteem, self-awareness. There's so many values that are instilled in them just by participating in that sport. So I know the power of sports for kids and how it really, it's like their mental health.
I mean, and, initially when we started, I was really wanting to focus on, my girls weren't this age yet, but that middle school girl age group, who struggle, with all of the things.
I love how you look at me, because I'm a middle schooler for the rest of my life. No, I love the middle school age group. And much like Anna, it's so important to me to all of it culminates in these middle school girls, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because that's where the impact can really happen and lives can change, and confidence that can create confidence in like thousands of other people, just starting with one kid. It's just immense.
That's the age group where nationally we lose female athletes, right? Like they've done a sport their whole elementary career, and they don't make the middle school team. They don't make the modified team and the mainstream sports, right? And then they stopped doing sport altogether. So to create a sport that's why I was floored really following Coach Coop recruiting all the other elementary PE teachers, within a week we had a sit-down meeting with the district athletic director and the department head for PE for middle school, high school, and elementary school, and pitched this idea of a K through 12 program. Now, in that room, of those PE teachers, we had the varsity football coach, the varsity baseball coach, who was the assistant AD, and the varsity lacrosse coach. And I'm pitching this idea of a K through 12 bikes in schools program. And the AD looked at me and he was like, yeah, when can we do this? Like, it was hands down for mainstream sport coaches to say to an advocate for a lifestyle sport rather than a mainstream sport I was amazed. And I don't think that we'd have that sort of reception at every school. I think when you bring in a new sport to a PE department, it can sometimes be a threat to the existing sports that they're offering. And I don't think they didn't see it that way. What they saw was another opportunity for kids who were not going to be choosing a sport where they were trying out for and representing their school and, wherever they were traveling to be able to continue to enjoy this lifestyle sport, lifetime sport.
That's amazing. I mean, and just the fact that it was a week later, I mean, not only did things align, but you made it happen. And I think that's something that, as people are listening, it's a really important lesson for all of us, again, in what really you can do when you just open up to the world of possibilities, much.
And it's curious, we've started to expand now, and I'm happy to talk about that at some point, but whether this has been so successful because it's Saratoga and we have the financial, sustainability to be able to ask people for money in the community and be able to roll this out so fast. Like, that's not typical, right? And what we'd like to do, the goal would be to be able to have these bikes in schools programs in areas that don't have that sort of privilege. And obviously we were able to grow this K through 12 bikes in school program because we know the individuals in Saratoga, we know who to reach out to, and we fundraised, in total it'd be over $100,000 worth of equipment and things that we are giving to the district. And to be able to do that in a year and a half is insane, right?
It's insane. It's inspiring. It's just awe-provoking. Like, how do you do that?
It takes a giant team.
Yeah.
A team of people who are all on board with the same idea. And I think a combination of, I tried to get as much press initially too, so that, because I knew that as our Shredders programming was, it's a small city, right? And we had so many families that were involved in our regular programming that they already knew the name Shredders. And then when they were seeing the fact that we were trying to get the bikes in the schools, they at least knew that we were a reputable organization and that we were, wanting to do the right thing and that we could organize this sort of thing and had that precedent set. So
did either of you, I didn't mean to interrupt, but do either of you remember a time where you were considering your legacy with this? Like, I'm just hearing legacy.
I think about it all the time.
Do you?
Yeah. I think about the dirty ass pennies that we would put on in gym class and how many kids those sat on in their lives and the sports equipment we would use. This is in the olden days. I don't know if they still use pennies in school to dictate teams, but the fact that these bikes are being used now and with upkeep can genuinely influence a generation plus of children, families, adults, people in the community. I love it.
Yeah. So it's about the removing all these barriers for access for this particular sport, right? And having given bikes to some of those organizations, we realized, well, the ultimate equity would be bringing bikes into the schools. That's removing all the barriers, the financial barriers, the transportation barriers. All the bikes are the same brand. You're not bringing your fancy bike versus someone who doesn't have a fancy bike.
Right.
And sure, there's, probably 20-30% of the kids entering kindergarten do already know how to ride a bike. And so they're just getting, some extra time on a bicycle when they're in kindergarten class. But for those, 60-70% who haven't ridden a bike or are on training wheels at home and finish a 3-week class in school and come home and tell their parents they can take the training wheels off their bike, it's phenomenal,
It's
right?
amazing.
And
I think we need to talk about middle school if we're talking about that.
Yes, it's just been, so the way the Saratoga Bikes in Schools program works is that we donated 24 balance bikes to each of the 6 elementary schools. Those bikes are very small, so they're easier to store. Storage is a huge issue for PE departments everywhere. But those small bikes they were able to store. And then what we did was we purchased a fleet of 30 bikes for the grade 1 through 5 kids. So these are 20 and 24 inch bikes that are bigger than the balance bikes, smaller than an adult bike. But we couldn't ask each elementary school to hold another 30 bikes of a larger size, right? So this is a shared fleet that the district has dedicated a box truck to transporting these bikes around. So every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it goes from school to school across the 6 elementary schools.
I had no idea how
shared.
Cool our district really
Right?
is in regards to this, because we only really generally hear things that we're unhappy with.
Yeah.
I think a shout out to them for
Absolutely.
embracing it and providing those things to make it happen too.
A huge
how
shout out to the
wonderful.
school. I mean, I've heard a great story about this particular guy who is the driver of this truck, the maintenance person, and he brings them from school to school and he loves this job. The fact that when he delivers these bikes and the teachers and the kids that are pulling off these lovely bikes off of the box truck and their eyes light up and it's like Christmas every time. And so every couple of weeks he gets to do this and feel the thrill of delivering this set of bikes to another set of elementary school kids. But that's 100%
Amazing.
because
It makes me emotional.
Yeah,
I know.
All of this makes me emotional.
I was gonna say, you're
genuinely.
getting a little teary.
I'm getting a little teary. I really am.
It takes all of that, right? It's the athletic director, the PE teachers. That it's one thing if we were to donate these bikes and the PE teachers weren't up for the challenge. They don't often get entire new sports curriculum that they need to roll out in PE.
Immediately.
This is a huge change. And those bikes could have just sat in a corner and collected dust. But because our hope is that we're setting the teachers up for success by providing them a curriculum, a bike PE curriculum. We're running a professional development tomorrow. Actually, Coach Shrey is rolling out a 1-day PD, so professional development for the PE teachers in Saratoga to bring the curriculum to reality and teach them how to get those kids on bikes. We've built trails for them with another organization called the Saratoga Mountain Bike Association that builds trails in this area. So there's all these pieces to it. And if those bikes are in poor condition, the teachers have to spend time fixing them. So we have created that relationship between the school and the local bike shop, in this case, Grey Ghost Bikes in Saratoga, to do all the maintenance for the bikes in their off season. So in the winter, Grey Ghost mechanics will come in and fix all the bikes so that in the spring, when they start rolling them out again, the teachers just have to get the kids on the bikes. They don't have to worry about how to teach it. They don't have to worry about whether the bikes are working. The idea, it's already a huge ask for them to get a class of 30 kids and one teacher. It's bananas. But the fact that they're passionate about it and excited about this new program, in addition to other pieces we've been able to deliver them, is hopefully setting them up for success in that way. But the middle school is super cool. So we gave the bikes in September, and we had a ribbon cutting for the trails that were built back there. And Coach Mitch Snyder, shout out to Coach Mitch, because he's a career teacher at Maple. Actually, I think he was at Greenfield as well for a few years. And he's been wanting to have mountain bike trails and a mountain bike program at Maple for years, but didn't really know how to go about doing it. And so this opportunity kind of landed in his lap, and he just went with it. He got all the permissions from everyone in the school to have the trails built and figure out the storage options. And it needs that person in the school to be able to do that.
Champion it for sure.
For sure. So he rolled it out in the fall with the 6th graders, and then this past spring now with the 7th graders. And had said to me, classes of 30 kids. He's had one class that had 9 kids who had never been on a bike before. Wow. And so he has a mixed ability, right? Kids that are in Shredders, for example, and then kids who have never been on a bike, and one teacher who has to, be able to roll that out. But after that 2-3 week period, 7 of the 9 kids knew how to ride a bike. And this is remarkable first of all, in terms of movement. We're talking about movement and how things have changed over the years, that we all were riding a bike as a kid, but these days with screens and things, kids aren't necessarily getting outside as much.
And they're expensive.
And they're getting to middle school having never ridden a bike.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're learning, eventually in a few years, they will all get it from kindergarten. And by the time they get to middle school, right, they will obviously have ridden a bike by then, because they will have the Bikes in Schools program for that many years. But right now, we're still teaching some of those middle schoolers, and just the joy, the pure joy that the teachers feel in seeing that sense of accomplishment has been really fun to hear about.
And that age group to have something so empowering is it's remarkable. And I also think, as we're talking, Grey Ghosts, right?
Yep.
Donating their time. We have a very unique and I think uniquely generous community that also gets behind things that they view as just so important. It's humbling when you hear that they just go to the schools and they fix the bikes, and we make it sound so easy, but for a business to do that, and the other organizations with the trails and all the people who donated, and it's the driver of the truck, all of the pieces just kind of fit together when you get that creative spark. I don't know if you read Big Magic.
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
So by Elizabeth Gilbert, it's literally one of my favorite books.
Oh.
And it talks about, we get these downloads of amazing ideas, and it's our decision whether or not we take it or it goes to someone else. And so you were mentioning the coach at the middle school and how this was an idea that he had, right? But he kind of let it go because he didn't have the know-how. Yeah. And then that idea still is out there somewhere in the ethos, right?
He had a hand-drawn map of trails that for
my God.
Had this for 5 or 6 years, and he handed it to me when we first met. I was like, oh my gosh, we can make that happen, Coach.
But the idea was you then had this idea, right? But you had the know-how.
Yeah.
Or at least, you had the skills, and then you assembled the team.
It's such a collaborative. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that's my superpower, is just connecting the people that know how to do the things
and
make it roll that way. Same with the bike park too. It wasn't an individual effort. It takes all of these different collaborations to make it all happen, which has been a really wonderful journey to connect with. Because I wasn't super connected. I work remotely for my company. It's a global company. We're Dutch based and I work from home. So it wasn't super connected to Saratoga specifically. And this is obviously very connected to Saratoga.
You have changed.
You're in deep now.
Indeed.
I mean, she's in so deep. She has gears. I don't know if you can see her earrings,
They
but
move.
They're
too.
amazing.
do they really?
They do. They move.
Oh my God, I love it.
And actually, one of my Shredder girls, like 3 or 4 years ago now, gave them to me after our race season. It was really sweet.
Oh,
So I've had them ever since. I wear them every race day.
I love that.
oh. So let me, as we kind of round out our time, I could just sit here and talk to you forever.
We could talk about girls on bikes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I feel like I diverted the
Okay.
school stuff, but
Let's talk about Girls on Bikes. You want to tell us a little bit more about that project?
yeah. So we initially started as a girls only program. And the last couple of years, we've added co-ed programming to our girls only program, but we still have a lot of girls only programming in the area. And fun story, I don't know if you were part of the organization yet. This was early on. The girls actually thought it was a girls only sport. So I was part of a conversation.
As
where-
they should,
Yeah. Right?
with all
Like,
sports.
I mean, they show up every, Tuesday and Thursday, and there's 100 girls there and 50 women there. And I was part of this circle up after one of the rides, and one of the girls says, "Isn't it great that mountain biking is a girls only sport?"
Oh my God.
I didn't say any of that. I obviously just let her
I
believe what she, because it's so
love
unique.
that.
Like I think of how powerful it is to do sports in a large group of women and how much that has changed my life. I initially had that experience. It was called the Freihoffers Run for Women in Albany for years. I can't remember the rebranded name, but the experience of walking or running in a race that is like all women is life-changing. And I've had that experience in Albany and Boston, and then I had it in San Francisco for the Nike Women's Half Marathon. And I promise I have a really good point. So before these races, they have an expo. And so I'm going into the expo, I'm going to pick up my packet and all of this stuff. And there was a huge white like focus wall. And it has what is now my favorite quote on it. If you have a body, you are an athlete. And it's from Bill Bowerman. He's like very famous Nike history. And that's the energy that like I see expressed through Shredders, whether it's all girls or co-ed or in the schools. And that's like the energy that we got from all the individuals within the physical education department, is that like everyone has a right to be able to move in a way that feels right to them. And like that's what I love about the all girls everything, is that to be able to do that with people who look like you and are going through the same things as you, especially like in middle school when everything is horrible.
Yes.
It's just so powerful. And that doesn't stop with one person. They tell someone else, or they're bringing someone with them. And I think that's like the real juice of what we have here.
Yeah. And
Well stated.
And as we've expanded, it's tricky, right? Because the cultural pieces of what I and we hold really dear are the fact that we started out as girls only and this ride with gratitude premise that we try and instill in our kiddos and coaches. And we were lucky enough to acquire another organization in the Albany and Schenectady area called Flow Riders. Throughout this winter, went through the whole transition process and added their programming to our programming this spring. So we now have over 400 kids riding between Albany and Queensbury in 4 different regions.
400 kids
400 kids
are on bikes because of you.
Yeah. Well,
Just the season. There's many more, but just this season.
Just the season.
Right
But
now.
like just let that hit you for a minute.
Yeah.
Like what an amazing.
It's been amazing.
Wait, I'm gonna take it to the next level. Those kids don't drive. They don't have jobs.
Yes.
They're not getting there on their own. They have
right.
parents who are
Full on
dedicated
parental support.
and bringing them to these trailheads. Sometimes they're coaching these parents. Sometimes they're sweeping. Sometimes the parents, especially there's like this one group of rad dads that their girls ride on Wednesdays. They're off in the trails having their adventures. And same thing with moms will come and they'll go on their own ride. The impact doesn't stop with just the kids.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned earlier about one of the unintentional consequences of just being this wonderful building of female mountain bikers in the area. And we do host women's beginner clinics every fall that some of our coaches run. And we, get 12 to 20 women every season to be able to do that. And then we host women's only rides as well throughout the course of the year. And early on when we were doing that, these were women that were new moms and hadn't had the experience since becoming moms of doing something for themselves, right? And it was this amazing, like, the conversation in the parking lot was like, oh, I hope my husband can take care of my children. First of all, we were like, but
I hope so.
But to see them come out of the woods like covered in dirt and huge smiles on their faces, even if they hadn't cleared like the feature or whatever we were trying to go over, just that joy of being on a bike in the woods is what really brings it.
There's nothing like it.
Well, and also like it's just the fact that, it's all women, it's all girls, and there is this like subtext sometimes when you have all women working that together. Palette, our community organization here, like our co-working space, is so collaborative and uplifting. But it's not always like that when you are working with other women. And so the lessons, I think, that are just naturally kind of permeating out into the biking culture, it just really fosters, collaboration woman to woman. And that doesn't always happen. There's sometimes that sense of competition or what have you that jumps up.
It's all the patriarchy's fault, all of that.
Well, yes.
But it still is there. And it's absolutely something that all of us have to confront and manage, whether we're in our business lives or our personal lives. And it is just so amazing to have these safe spaces where we can learn and make mistakes. Totally. And that's my favorite part. Not watching people crash, not watching people like not be able to handle a feature, but slowly or sometimes very quickly progressing and realize that they are way stronger than they thought they were.
Yeah, to add on to the girls only piece, when we started, I was mentioning that we evolve often, right? Yes. And so at some point a few years ago, we realized that even though, 99% of the kids that we get on bikes are really just in it to ride their bikes with their friends in the woods, right? Sure. There was a certain contingent of kids that we thought might want more. And so we offered the opportunity to race on bikes. And so it was the first time we had a race team, which felt very aggressive. It felt very like different to what our culture of Shredders was, but there was clearly kind of a need for it. It was girls at the time wanted more. And there's an organization, a national organization called NICA, the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, that's for racing for middle school and high school kids, for mountain biking specifically. New York has its own NICA league. So there's a spring season where we race 4 or 5 races every spring. And we've been a race team now. This is our 4th year. So it came brand new to the first race season. And we had only girls, and they were all middle school ages. And they showed up and won all of the things. And they were like,
yeah, they did.
They had no idea that they were so strong. Our girls had no idea that they were so strong, but they had just been having fun, riding in the woods like 2 or 3 days a week for a couple of years. Right. And they had no idea how strong they were. And that group of kids is now, 8th and 9th grade. So still not that old in high school, but and sweeping the varsity podiums of these races. And we just became state champions last week. So it's this really cool evolution.
No, I think that one of my favorite details about that is the makeup of the union.
The team score, it's an individual sport, right? Mountain biking. But in order to create a team dynamic to it and have a team overall score at the end, they take the top 4 points scorers on the team, and they have to be high school races, not high school age necessarily, but the people in them have to be in the high school races. And you have to have 3 of one gender and 1 of the other gender, or 2 and 2. Every other team is 3 boys and 1 girl as their point scorers. Like they struggle to have a girl that will score the points on their team. And ours has been, our top 6 point scorers are girls. We can only take the top 3. And then we have like 2 boys, these poor boys who have so much pressure on them because our girls are at the top of the podium.
Poor
they have
nothing.
To
it's fine
because
but
you know
it's
what?
a totally different dynamic.
Because the other teams aren't saying, "Oh, the poor girl."
No, yeah, exactly.
Right? They're like, they expect them to, just check the box, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's why they started that ratio in the first place, right? Was to encourage more girls, encourage teams to get more girls on
Yeah,
the
just
team.
let one girl in. You just need one girl.
We came in with, 85% girls. We knew we had to have a boy, so we became co-ed because of that. And across the country, we were the highest ratio of girls to boys in the country for NICA teams.
Amazing.
That's like the whole country.
Yeah, not just in New York, but so we're now a little bit more kind of even boys to girls on the race team, but our girls are just so strong. It's so fun to have seen them evolve. And to your point of being competitive, these girls are best friends on and off the bike. They put everything out there in training, and then they show up in the start line and they respect each other enough to leave it out there in the race and not be like, oh no, you go first. Like, oh no, we're friends, so we'll just race together and sprint to the end. They are putting it all
grit
out there. And then there'll be some disappointment at the end, right? Because someone's lost. And within a couple of minutes, they're rolling on the floor laughing again and best friends. And so it's so fun to see that piece of women supporting women genuinely being excited for each other as racers when they're finished because they're on the same team and get to try the privilege of getting to train together. So many other athletes at that level have to do their own individual training in order to keep progressing. But because this core group of girls are so strong and at that same level, they can do all their training together, which makes that bond even stronger too as they go forward.
I mean, it's remarkable. And so I just wonder, as we kind of wind things down, like, what's next?
Yeah.
State champs, like, are we going national? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. No, that was just Saratoga as our race team. But yeah, so we just had a name change this year. So we've gone from Saratoga Shredders, originally geographically just based here in Saratoga, about 3 years ago, started a Queensbury region. It's kind of a pilot in terms of expansion. See, okay, well, can we do this elsewhere? Or is this just, special to Saratoga and it's not going to work anywhere else? So we have a core group of volunteers who did a wonderful job of starting that program in Queensbury. And there's about 40 kids up there. Again, started girls only for 2 years.
Amazing.
And now also have co-ed programming. And then having acquired this other organization, Flow Riders in Albany and Schenectady, the idea is that Shredders MTB is ages 3 to 12-ish of kiddos. And if you're starting a new Shredders region, you need to start girls only for 2 full seasons and to be able to start to make the connections with the local schools. So to at least try and get a kindergarten program set up in the local school system. So you immediately get those different stakeholders talking to each other, right? The Shredders in the area, the school district, the trail builders, the bike shop, like all these kind of but
they have the plan. Like they have the blueprint already done for them.
That's the hope. And I think some things will shift. Like culturally, you can't expect as you expand for everything to expand with that. And that's what I'm struggling with a little bit now, is making sure that we keep some of those cultural pieces with the organization. But so the hope is that we continue to expand little by little across the state and as a young group. And then you connect as those kiddos age up into 5th grade, they would then connect with their local NICA race team. And the NICA team is not necessarily, you don't have to race if you're on the NICA team. It's also a ride group. So we're connecting with those other local NICA teams and they can just continue to progress with them. And that every time we're starting a new region, we're hopefully getting bikes into the school system. So yeah, the next plan is continue to slowly expand to different areas and
total domination.
Absolutely.
That's a line from Marcella. World domination.
I mean, it's not, I don't keep it just for one area of my life. This is
how you roll.
Yeah.
In general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally roll. You did that.
I'm so fun. So if you had one piece of, I don't know, I call it like a dose of inspiration to leave listeners with, I'll give you a second to kind of put that together.
I mean, my immediate response is always think big. I mean, and if you fail, you fail. But I feel like having the right people in your corner and being able to think big and being supported by that has made us where we're at. And
awesome.
Yeah,
think big. All right, Marcella.
I have so many. I'm going to say it one more time. If you have a body, you're an athlete, because everybody needs to hear that, especially women. And it doesn't always have to be hard. Even if it is hard, it's a lot easier if you're doing it with your friends.
Yes.
And maybe that's running a board or maybe that is a business, or maybe that is any sort of sport that you participate in.
Mm-hmm.
But just being willing to try something and knowing you're going to be bad at it until you're good or better.
Right.
I think that is something that we get to see in action all the time, is that willingness to try and that willingness to not succeed, but to be resilient.
Right. Because you learn, right?
Yeah.
You're either winning or you're learning. I love that.
Winning or you're learning.
Yeah, I forget where I got that from. It's not original, but I do love that because it reminds us that we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to chase after that perfection in order to just enjoy doing new things. And that's really how we all grow, whether you're a kindergartner or you're a 48-year-old woman.
Yeah, I
Try
agree.
something new. Right? Like this is new for me and I'm loving it and enjoying it. But it's true. Like you gotta.
Yeah, don't tell yourself you can't do something before you even try.
Right. And that, I've often said that to my daughter, like, why would you have your brain tell you that? Like, why would you accept that before you even give it a go?
Yeah.
Give it a go.
But we accept it because culturally that is how we've kind of been told to be.
Right. But we don't need to.
We're over it.
And
it's 2025.
I think the two of you have done an incredible service to our community. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to encourage listeners to get involved if this kind of resonated. So where can people find you?
Yeah. We have a website and we are at www.shreddersmtb.org.
Okay.
So all of our program registration information is on there every season. We open up for fall programming on July 15th. Most of our summer camps are full now, but there are a few spots, and you can find that link on the website as well.
Awesome.
Brand new pump track being opened up on June 30th over on Weibel Ave. If you're local, grand opening of a pump track. Oh, that's a whole other story.
It's the first municipal sustainable pump track in
Fellow Solutions pump track in New York.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You two are just forces to be
and that's just
reckoned
another
with.
collaborative amazingness that has happened with the city, where these girls, our Shredders girls, pitched the idea of a bike park to the recreation
They went and
department
they
3
did
years
that
ago.
themselves. They went
They
to
did.
the board. Yeah.
And then the city council allocated $400,000 to the bike park a couple of years ago.
Amazing.
And then we were able to identify an organization called American Ramps Company, ARC, who are the best in class of building bike parks. So the first zone of the bike park is an asphalt pump track. And the pump track is a fancy word for like whoop-de-doos and little blips on a track, and you go round and round and round. But it being asphalt is a whole nother level of riding, and it's the best in class. So this pump track will be able to host UCI and Red Bull events if we wanted to. It's like too spec that we could have proper amazing events at it. And Saratoga's
Anna
already
said that
a
because she
destination.
knows I'm like, we got to bring a Red Bull.
Yeah.
I've been saying it.
But this is just the first phase of
Yeah.
it, and it was built. You can ride it now. The grand opening is June 30th, and then there'll be 2 other phases. One phase is a bike playground, so it'll be a smaller version of the current pump track for beginner riders and also for adaptive equipment to be able to ride on.
Amazing.
And then there'll be an entire jumps line for the big senders, those that want
Like
to
Anna.
keep my wheels on the ground.
I just thank you both so much for spending this time with us and for sharing all of the, not just information, but like the wisdom behind it. And I think there's a lot here for anyone, whether they ride a bike or they don't, or maybe they'll be encouraged to just hop on a bike.
Yeah,
thank
they
you for
need to be
having
encouraged to try.
Yeah, totally.
The only obstacle is oneself so often. And, especially as women, it's like, oh, I'm too big, or I'm like not athletic enough, or like this. Like we make so many excuses to not do things, like wear a bathing suit in public.
Well, what
is stopping us?
Why do we believe the lies that our brain is feeding us? Why can't we believe the truth, right? So thank you both for sharing all of that and inspiring so many, particularly young girls in our community, to reach for more than they probably thought they could. So
It's been a privilege. Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Jennifer.
coming. Love you. Bye.
Thanks for sharing your time with me here on Prescribing Possibility. I hope today's conversation offered you a breath of fresh air, a new perspective, or even just a moment of calm in the chaos of life. If this episode resonated with you, pass it along to a friend or a colleague. You never know who might need a little more harmony in their life today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. your questions or topics you're curious about. Reach out to me anytime on Instagram or LinkedIn at DimpNoWhile, or send me an email at podcast@dimpnowhile.com. Until next time, give yourself the grace to grow, the space to rest, and the courage to imagine what's next.